You know, for a brief, brilliant moment, pirates ruled the Caribbean. I mean, they built their own republic, they flew their own flag, and they absolutely terrorized the world's most powerful empires. But in just a few short years, the whole thing came crashing down. So let's dive into exactly how the Golden Age of Piracy met its dramatic and very bloody end.
I mean, that was the million-dollar question facing the British Empire back in the early 18th century. See, these pirates weren't just a few scattered raiders on the high seas. They were an organized, defiant, and incredibly successful society. Taking them down, yeah, that wasn't going to be easy.
And the heart of it all was Nassau, on New Providence Island in the Bahamas. By 1715, this place was a sprawling, chaotic hub for thousands of thieves, outlaws, and rebels. From this one base, they launched raids that crippled trade in the West Indies, and London had, well, they'd finally had enough.
All right, so the first section, an offer and a storm. But here's the thing. The beginning of the end for the Pirate Republic didn't come from a Royal Navy fleet. Nope. It came from two completely unexpected directions, an act of God and an act of the king.
So picture this. It's April 1717. The infamous Black Sam Bellamy, one of the most successful pirates alive, is sailing his treasure-packed ship, the White Galley, off the coast of Cape Cod. And then a monstrous nor'easter just appears on the horizon, ready to swallow them whole. The ship was just annihilated, smashed to pieces against the shore. Bellamy and 160 of his crew were lost to the sea. Just like that. It was a staggering blow and a really stark reminder that even the most feared pirate captain was vulnerable, not just to the Navy, but to the raw power of nature itself.
And then, later that year, word reached Nassau of a proclamation from King George I. It was an offer. Any pirate who surrendered within the year would get a full pardon for all their crimes. Now, this might sound generous, but it was actually a brilliant piece of psychological warfare.
And boy, did it cause chaos. The pirates immediately fractured. You had the pragmatists, guys like Benjamin Hornigold, who saw a way out, and then you had the hardliners, led by the absolutely uncompromising Charles Vane, who saw it as a betrayal. This pardon didn't just divide them, it poisoned their trust. Suddenly, the guy you're sharing a drink with could be planning to turn you in. The unity that made Nassau so powerful, it was shattered from the inside.
So, with the pirates divided, the British made their move. They sent a new governor to reclaim the Bahamas, a former privateer named Woodes Rogers. He showed up in Nassau in July 1718 with a small fleet, ready to enforce the king's will, one way or another.
But the hardliners weren't surrendering. Not a chance. In this incredible act of defiance, Charles Vane pulled off something legendary. He took one of his own captured ships, packed it with anything that would burn, and turned it into a massive floating bomb. He lit the fuse and aimed it straight at the Royal Navy's blockade. In the chaos and sheer panic of the explosion, Vane and his crew just slipped right through the fiery gap and escaped to the open sea. It was a brilliant, desperate, and totally unforgettable move.
So Vane gets away, but Rogers now holds Nassau. Victory, right? Well, not exactly. What he inherited was a complete and total disaster. The fort was falling apart, the pardoned pirates refused to work, a mysterious disease was killing his men, food was almost gone, and, to top it all off, the Spanish were planning an invasion. The Pirate Republic was gone, but Rogers was on the absolute brink of collapse himself.
Meanwhile, while Rogers is struggling to hold Nassau together, the most legendary pirate of them all was still out there, still terrorizing the seas. And he was planning one final, spectacular score before he retired. This was, of course, the infamous Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard.
In May of 1718, Blackbeard's fleet sails to Charleston, South Carolina, and blockades the entire port. Can you imagine? He captures a ship carrying some of the city's most prominent citizens. And then, in this truly bizarre move, he doesn't demand gold. He ransoms them for a chest of medical supplies to treat his crew for syphilis. The governor had no choice. He had to pay up.
So, after his big Charleston score, Blackbeard basically decides to cash out. He double-crosses his allies' Steed Bonnet, maroons most of his own crew, and sails to North Carolina. There, he bribes Governor Charles Eden for a pardon and sets up a nice, cozy base in Ocracoke Inlet, thinking he's untouchable.
He was wrong. The governor of neighboring Virginia, a guy named Alexander Spotswood, was absolutely fed up with Blackbeard's presence.
He couldn't just stand by while the corrupt governor sheltered a notorious pirate. So Spotswood launched a secret and technically illegal military operation, sending Royal Navy Lieutenant Robert Maynard to hunt Blackbeard down in another colony's territory.
The final battle kicks off on November 22, 1718. Maynard's ships get stuck on a sandbar trying to launch a surprise attack, and Blackbeard is ready for them. A single broadside, just one, kills or wounds 21 of Maynard's men. That's nearly half his force, gone in an instant. It was a devastating, almost battle-ending opening shot.
So, believing he'd already won, Blackbeard pulls his ship alongside Maynard's battered sloop. But as Blackbeard and his pirates swarm aboard, expecting an easy finish, Maynard gives the signal. His hidden crew erupts from below deck, turning the boarding party into a deadly ambush. The deck just became a slaughterhouse of close-quarters combat. Blackbeard himself fought like a cornered beast. He faced Maynard one-on-one, and even after being shot, he had the strength to shatter the lieutenant's sword. But he was just one man, and the numbers were against him. He was shot a total of 5 times. And on top of those gunshots, he took at least 20 severe sword cuts. He just kept fighting, a whirlwind of steel and fury, until a final blow from a Scottish Highlander's broadsword finally brought him down. In just 6 minutes, the most feared pirate in the world was dead.
Blackbeard's death was more than the fall of one man. It was a symbol. The news sent a shockwave across the Caribbean. If the mighty Blackbeard could be killed, then no pirate was safe. The age of piracy was truly over.
And after that, the rest of the dominoes just fell, one by one. In 1720, Woodes Rogers successfully defended Nassau from that Spanish invasion, securing it once and for all. A year later, the defiant Charles Vane was finally captured and hanged. Soon after, Calico Jack Rackham met the same fate. By 1726, the great pirate threat that had once terrorized the entire Atlantic was effectively gone.
But then, something strange happened. In 1724, a book was published that detailed the lives and exploits of these very pirates. It was a massive bestseller, and it transformed these brutal thieves and murderers from historical footnotes into the enduring romantic legends we know today. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? The Golden Age of Piracy was short, it was violent, and it was crushed by overwhelming force. So why, centuries later, do we still find ourselves so captivated by the stories of Blackbeard, Vane, and the others? Why do we continue to celebrate the villains?